Hello and welcome to today's episode of Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass. This is episode number 12 and I remain your man Ikenna Ume Izudike, Director of Modesty Financial Consultants Limited, a financial services company based in Luton offering mortgage services, business loans and financial and investment advisory services. Okay, today we are going to be continuing on our series on types of mortgage borrowers, and this is part 3 of our types of mortgage borrowers. It's just to enlighten you about the different forms that mortgage borrowers assume in the mortgage market, their implications, and things you need to know about them, because you never know when you might find yourself in that category or in that shoe. You need to know what you've got to do and how you've got to deal with it. Okay, so that's basically what we do every Wednesday, educating you on anything and everything mortgage, what you need to know and how you need to apply that knowledge if you need to apply it. Just basically general mortgage education. And I feel it's very important that anyone who has a mortgage or who intends to take on a mortgage anytime in the future to buy a property, especially here in the UK, you really need to be tuning in every Wednesday as we take you on this educational journey. But first of all, let us see what is going on in the marketplace recently in the mortgage market. In this COVID-19 season, a lot of changes have been taking place. But good thing, last week, property activities resumed. And of course, mortgages are structured around property finance and property activities. So definitely it has affected the mortgage market as well. But how has it done that? So let's find out. First of all, we found out that lenders are now beginning to reprice and adjust their criteria for lending, because obviously the restrictions around property activities have been lifted last week, meaning that people can now move home, people can now buy and let or manage their properties or engage in property related activities, and people who want to go and maybe decorate their properties and work on their properties and put them on the market or move into them. Home moving can happen now, although with some guidelines attached to it. But that act alone and that movement alone in the property sector has significantly affected the way mortgage lenders are now approaching mortgages and lending. So lenders have been repricing their products. It has been obviously affecting the rates that they are offering, meaning that they are now able to offer competitive rates again as they expect more activities in the mortgage market and in the properties industry. Again, lenders are also having to adjust their criteria. Their criteria including their lending criteria on affordability, the loan to values, the amount of loan they are willing to lend in proportion to the value of the property. Their criteria around who is eligible to borrow and who is not eligible to borrow. Their criteria around the security for that loan in terms of the property features. What sort of properties are they happy to lend, and what sort of properties are they not happy to lend against? So these criteria have been readjusted to reflect the reopening of the property markets. So a lot of lenders now are withdrawing some of the products that they put on the market during the COVID-19 lockdowns period, when they weren't able to carry out physical evaluations. And because they couldn't carry out physical evaluations, the evaluations they were able to carry out at that time was just desktop valuations and automated valuations. So now that they can physically send out valuers and surveyors to go and value properties, they are beginning to withdraw some of the products in the market they put in the market during the lockdown, because some of those products were structured and designed to accommodate only automated valuations. But now that they can go out and value properties physically, some of those products are being withdrawn and they are being replaced by more adventurous and forward-looking products, meaning that they are willing and able and happy to lend more than they were happy to lend during the lockdown period. And to be honest with you, the property industry and even the mortgage market have been taken by surprise by the moves last week to reopen the property industry. We were really expecting to come back, to things around June. But then all of a sudden, last week, the government said, hey, activities around the property industry can resume again. Who are there to say no? And everybody jumped on the bandwagon and things are beginning to pick up. Now, some lenders are also currently extending their current mortgage offers, to enable borrowers more time to complete on the mortgages and the deals and the purchases that they were dealing with before the lockdown. Normally, when the mortgage offer expires, you're expected to reapply for extension, but this time around, some lenders had already offered 3 months extension, and at the expiration of that 3 months extension, they are offering another 3 months extension. So some lenders are offering as much as 6 months extension in total to enable borrowers to complete on the purchases and the deals that they are already dealing with before the lockdown happened. And the physical valuation of properties have now resumed, like I said. So they are really adjusting their lending criteria to reflect that. Okay, so the other thing that we've also noticed in the mortgage market this time around is the effect of the lockdown on first-time buyers. The effect of the lockdown on first-time buyers. See, first-time buyers are most likely going to be needing more level of borrowing. They are most likely going to be having little deposits, so they will be requiring, let's say, 90% loan to value mortgages or 95% loan to value mortgages. So most 90 and 95% loan to value mortgages are required and acquired by first-time buyers. But because of this lockdown, most lenders couldn't afford to lend 90 up to 95% loan to value, simply because the property value might not allow them to do that. They might require a physical valuation for them to lend that much against a property, unless the property value and the total loan involved doesn't represent that much. So most lenders withdrew their 90 to 95% loan to value mortgages because the lockdown could not allow them to carry out physical valuations and to be able to lend between 90 to 95% loan to value. Also, because of the inability to carry out face-to-face valuations, first-time buyers were also affected by that, because a lot of the properties they would like to buy or purchase would require face-to-face valuation. And because they can't also do physical viewing as a first-time buyer, most first-time buyers would want to go and view the property physically before making their mind up or deciding whether to buy or not to buy. So first-time buyers have been, significantly affected by this lockdown, going by the products available to them, inability to conduct face-to-face valuations, inability for them to go and view properties physically. So according to Trust is an online mortgage services company. They said the searches for first-time buyer mortgages fell by 35% in April compared to this time April last year. There was a decline of 35% on inquiries by first-time buyers in this April compared to April last year. And then between March and April alone, there was a 53% reduction in inquiries by first-time buyers and in submission of cases by first-time buyers, according to Trust. And then the halt on physical valuations as well has its own effects. So the negative reaction of some lenders towards some classes of borrowers owing to the government furlough scheme also contributed to that drop. Because remember that the government guaranteed 80% of people's salaries. People who are furloughed, furloughed workers are workers who are temporarily made redundant. So workers that found themselves in that category because of the COVID-19, the UK government covered their wages by as much as 80%. So that definitely affected the lending criteria for some of those people who are first-time buyers, because their current salary as offered by the government, if their employer or employers are not making up the remaining 20%, it means when affordability is assessed, they might be deemed not fit to for borrowing because they cannot afford that mortgage based on the assessment of their current income. So some lenders were not even willing to entertain applications from furloughed workers, while some lenders were happy to entertain applications from furloughed workers as long as your 80% wages can meet the affordability criteria for the loan you want to take. So that's how it affected first-time buyers. That really affected, first-time buyers during this COVID-19 season. And hopefully now that activities have resumed, apart from the furloughed worker situation, the other factors like physical valuation and going to view the properties physically, if they can overcome that, then they might be in a better position to apply for mortgages again. Okay, the third update I want to bring to your notice is the surge in mortgage searches. So again, because of the reopening of property activities last week, mortgage searches have risen, significantly. So according to 27 Tech, an online fintech company who provides platform for borrowers, for lenders and brokers to interact, they said that the volume of documents that they have had to prepare and the mortgage searches that they have received and the value of loans that have been approved according to their platform has risen in the week ending 17th of May. So breakdown of that report shows that there's been an increase of 27.46% of mortgage searches for the week ending 17th of May. And in terms of those searches that have been conducted, purchase mortgages, right? That is mortgages for people who are buying homes, not really remortgage, for people who are buying their own residential properties. Purchase mortgages used to represent 55 to 60% of mortgage searches on this platform, but now they've fallen to 24.5%. Even though, if you look at the week in, week out statistics, it's increased by 40% for the week ending 17th of May. So which shows a slight increase in the amount of searches for purchase mortgages in that week ending 17th of May. What does it tell us? That more and more people are beginning to search for mortgages because the property market has been opened up again and people now feel confident to apply for mortgages. Meanwhile, buy-to-let mortgages, which used to represent 19.78% of the total searches, now represent about 22% of total searches within the same period of the week ending 17th of May. So it then remains to be seen whether these increases are sustainable or they are just a reaction, an immediate reaction to the reopening of the of the properties market. We are yet to see that. So if that is sustained, then that's good news. If it's not sustained, then it means that people are just reacting to the fact that we can do property stuff again. Okay. Then Rightmove also. Rightmove is the biggest platform for property searches. People who are looking to buy or sell properties, they go to property platforms online to search. Rightmove is the biggest of them lot. So Rightmove have said that property inquiries have doubled overnight. Between Tuesday and Wednesday last week, property inquiries and property searches have doubled overnight between Tuesday and Wednesday last week. So they've noticed that phone and email inquiries that are sent to estate agents were only 10% lower than they were at this time last year. And to consider that last year we were in peace times, there was no crisis, no pandemic, but between now and last year, comparing it is just 10% difference, so it's just 10% lower, which means there has been a very, very significant increase in property searches on that platform. So the total visits to Rightmove platform was about 5.2 million people visited Rightmove to search for properties. That represents a 4% increase at this time last year. That's really, really significant, amazing. So that just shows you the volume of transactions that are now going on around the property sectors here in the UK. And then rental demand has increased. It has, in fact, surged again, meaning that the number of inquiries for rental properties is on the increase. So during this period, the number of new properties coming to the market actually remains 90% lower as at this time last year. But even though, week on week comparison, it's over 100% increase. So as at this time last year, it is still significantly lower, but week on comparison, it's over 100% increase. So what does all this mean to us? It simply means that the property market is picking up. People who are looking for rental properties are beginning to show enough interest, so there is demand again. People are searching for properties, even though not too many new properties and property listings are coming to Rightmove at the moment, or to the property portals at the moment, which is why Rightmove has suspended their release of property listing data, because there is not enough they're asking price data, sorry, there isn't enough property listings to justify that data. So they need enough properties to come onto the markets for them to really justify their asking price data. What it means that there is serious shortage of property listings on the market. So demand for rental and demand from the buyers is actually at the moment seriously outstripping the supply. And that tells you that really and truly serious activities are going on in the property market. So the suppliers have the upper hand a little bit. They have always had the upper hand anyway, because in the UK there has never been enough houses have not been built. It has been a situation in the UK for some years now that there have been not enough houses built. Demand has always outstripped, but in this case it is significant enough for Rightmove to suspend the release of property asking price data until there is enough listings on the platform to really give them a good basis for that data to be released and compared. Okay, that's it for the market update today. Let's dive straight into today's topic. So today's topic, we are looking at a special kind of borrower, a special kind of mortgage borrower. Yeah, Obi, I can see you. Well done. Oluchuku, well done. John, well done. Well done. So today we are looking at a special kind of borrower. Charito, well done. Welcome. We're looking at a special kind of borrower. We're looking at attorneys. Yeah. So listen, when I don't mean attorneys like it's said in the US. Attorneys in the US mean they are lawyers or solicitors, or as we know them. But in this case, we are talking about a special kind of arrangement, a special kind of legal arrangement. So who are attorneys? Attorneys are people who are empowered by a document called a power of attorney in the UK to deal with someone else's financial or other affairs. Okay? So there is a document called a power of attorney. That document empowers somebody else to deal with someone else's financial and other affairs, including in some cases property. So there are certain power of attorney that authorizes you to deal with somebody's financial affairs, somebody's property affairs, somebody's personal affairs, and somebody's health and mental affairs as well. So it empowers you to make certain decisions and empowers you to help people make those decisions in some cases. But I'm going to get to that first. But just for you to understand what attorneys mean in general, there are people who have been empowered. Previous editions, you can get previous editions of our mortgage for mortgage education on my YouTube channel, right? Go to my YouTube channel, just search Ike Naomi Ezike, subscribe, and you can see other editions, previous sessions on our mortgage education series. Thank you. So attorneys are people who have been empowered by these documents called power of attorney to act on behalf of others or to help others make certain decisions or have influence over their financial affairs. Now, elderly people or people who live outside of the UK or outside of the country usually make use of these documents to enable them, empower others to make decisions or to help them carry out certain responsibilities or help them carry out certain tasks like paying their bills or looking after their properties and paying certain fees that are relating to the property. Now, also people with certain level of vulnerability and incapacity to make decisions on their own use these documents, and this means to empower others to make decisions on their behalf. Now, power of attorney, or POA as we normally shorten it, is recommended for anyone who wishes to ensure that someone they know and trust will be helping them make decisions when they are not in the position to do that. So if you have concerns over who will help make certain decisions for you when you are unable to do that, if you have those concerns, we recommend that you arrange power of attorney, maybe in advance or just in case. In that power of attorney, you can then name someone that you know and that you trust, that you would like to make decisions on your behalf if you cannot, or that you would like to help you make those decisions when you get to a certain age or when you get to a certain stage. If you feel vulnerable in any way, it offers you some kind of protection and some kind of assurance and peace of mind that this person who I know and trust will be the one making decisions for affairs relating to my finance, to my property, or to my health and well-being when I cannot. So you can actually make that arrangement in advance. Okay, Mother Abuchuk, welcome. So the one giving the power, power of attorney, the person giving the power is called the donor. And you can choose, the donor can choose to give their attorney general powers, or you can choose to limit the powers you have given to your attorney, right? Now, if you don't have a legal capacity to contract, you cannot appoint an attorney on your own. People who lack capacity to contract are people like minors. If you're a minor, you don't have the capacity to contract, so you cannot actually appoint an attorney on your own or by yourself if you do not have the legal capacity to contract. So, for example, a minor cannot appoint an attorney of their own to enter into a contract on their behalf. Now, there are different powers of attorney that I need to bring to your notice, and we're going to be looking at these different powers of attorney, one at a time. There is what we call the ordinary power of attorney. There is also what we call the enduring power of attorney, and there's also what we call the lasting power of attorney. Now, these are the three basic major types of powers of attorney that exist. Listen, I'm talking in reference and in respect to the UK market. Fatima, welcome. In respect to the UK market and the UK legal system, right? I don't know what is obtainable in other locations and other jurisdictions where you are, but this is peculiar to the UK legal system and the UK environment. So, in the lasting power of attorney, there are basically two types of lasting powers of attorney that we can tell you about. There is one lasting power of attorney that deals with property and financial affairs. And then there is another lasting power of attorney that deals with health and welfare. We're going to break all that down later. First of all, let's talk about, ordinary power of attorney. What does ordinary power of attorney do? The ordinary power of attorney enables the attorney to carry out activities that are related to the donor's property and financial affairs. So the ordinary power of attorney enables you, who is the attorney or whoever you've appointed as your attorney, to act on your behalf in relation to your property and your financial affairs. So this ordinary power of attorney is normally used by people who are capable to make decisions on their own mentally, but physically they are incapacitated. So they need someone who will help them do some stuff, like paying bills and carrying out some transactions on their behalf. So these kind of people, the people who are donors in this situation, are people who are mentally capable, but they are physically incapacitated. So they will now issue a power of attorney to an individual to help them carry out some transactions, which they understand the implications and what those transactions are, but physically they cannot carry out those transactions on their own. That's very, very important to note, that these people are mentally capable, but they are physically incapacitated. Also, people who live abroad or who live outside of the UK use this kind of attorney, this ordinary power of attorney, to authorize people to do certain stuff on their behalf. For example, pay their bills. Yeah, maybe they have a property here in the UK and they need to be paying their mortgages, they need to be paying their heating and electricity bills, they need to be paying their council tax, their water bills, credit card bills, and other bills that, pertains to their general financial life and pertain to their property. So they can issue a power of attorney to somebody who lives in the UK and authorize them to pay those bills and do those stuff, on their behalf. So in this type of power of attorney, the donors have complete control over their affairs, right? They are aware of what's going on. They have complete control. They just issue that power of attorney, that document, to someone to help them to do these things. They can perform those roles themselves because they are mentally capable to do it. But maybe because of physical incapacitation, they cannot. But they could also do it themselves. But because of distance, they cannot. So something must have triggered, their decision to issue that power of attorney. So it doesn't mean that they are, completely vulnerable or that the control is taken away from them. They have full control of their affairs and everything, but they are just issuing that document to make things easier for them to execute. So the moment in this ordinary power of attorney, the moment the donor becomes mentally incapable, that ordinary power of attorney ceases, right? The moment the donor of an ordinary power of attorney becomes mentally incapable, the ordinary power of attorney ceases to exist. You stop to act on their behalf immediately. Now, if no other provision has been made for you to carry on acting on behalf of these people, what happens is that the court of protection will now appoint someone else to look after these people's affairs, their financial and property affairs. The significant thing now is if the court of protection had to make that decision, they may not necessarily appoint someone that you know. It may not necessarily be someone that you want. It may just end up being someone that the court of protection feels is in the best position and has the capacity to do that. It will be a complete stranger that they will appoint. Now, such a person, if they are appointed by the court of protection, they are referred to as deputies, right? Now, these deputies and their appointment attracts fees. So you've got to pay for the fees of appointing those deputies and the services that those deputies carry out, and the cost of supervising those deputies. You've got to bear the cost. So it comes with costs. There's a cost element to, the court of protection appointing deputies for you. If you have not made any provision beyond the ordinary power of attorney, when you lose your mental capacity or when the donor loses their mental capacity. So the fees have to be taken care of. So these are very significant aspects of the ordinary power of attorney. Now, the other power of attorney I want you to know is what we call the lasting power of attorney. Now, this power of attorney goes a little bit further than the ordinary power of attorney, in that it enables the attorney to decide. It enables people to decide who will look after their affairs should they become mentally incapable. Right? Remember, in ordinary power of attorney, you are mentally capable, you are in control, you just issue an ordinary power of attorney, and these attorneys help you carry out transactions. Now, if you issue out a lasting power of attorney, what you are doing, in essence, is to say, in the event I am mentally incapable to make a decision, this person must be authorized to make financial decisions on my behalf and to manage affairs relating to my property. So this is about property and financial affairs. So that's the difference between a lasting power of attorney and an ordinary power of attorney. Power of attorney goes beyond the mental incapacity. Remember that once you become mentally incapable, and it has to do with ordinary power of attorney, the ordinary power of attorney ceases. But now the lasting power of attorney goes further to enable you to appoint someone to make decisions and manage your financial and property affairs should you become mentally incapacitated. Now, lasting power of attorney also ensures that the person assumes that responsibility with minimal disruption. Okay, so there is no long process. There's no long process of the court of protection. Chinedu, well done, welcome. There's no long process of the court of protection going, through the process of looking for who they will appoint and going through all those processes. So once you have a lasting power of attorney in place, the moment you become mentally incapacitated, the attorney assumes that responsibility with minimal disruption. One key thing with the lasting power of attorney is that it must be registered with the office of the public guardian. There's an office, there's a department, a government arm called the office of the public guardian. Every lasting power of attorney must be registered with this office. If it's not registered, it's not going to be effective. It's not effective and it's not going to be recognized. Now, there are two forms of lasting powers of attorneys that are available. The first form is the lasting power of attorney that authorizes you to deal with the property and financial affairs of the donor. Now, this lasting power of attorney, it allows you to look after the donor's finances and their property, including borrowing. Very, very important, including borrowing. So unless that lasting power of attorney specifically excludes borrowing from that lasting power of attorney, you are entitled to borrow on behalf of that person who issued that lasting power of attorney. Which also means that in designing your lasting power of attorney, you can decide to deliberately exclude borrowing, to say, when I'm mentally incapacitated, I do not want this person to take out any loans on my behalf or to borrow on my behalf. Okay, so it can be used as soon as it's registered. Once it's registered, the attorney can start using that power immediately with the donor's permission. That's number one type of lasting power of attorney, the attorney that allows you to deal with financial and property affairs. Then the second type of lasting power of attorney is the one that allows you or empowers the attorney. It's called the health and welfare lasting power of attorney, right? It empowers the attorney to make decisions that relates to the donor's health and their welfare. And that includes making decisions that involves medical treatments. Sometimes people need people to sign that a certain kind of surgery will have to be carried out on them. If they do not have a lasting power of attorney that empowers somebody to sign that document on their behalf, you cannot sign that document on their behalf unless you have that lasting power of attorney or in some other kind of legal capacity. Or even deciding whether they go into a care home or not. Or if they're going to go into a care home, what care home they're going to go into. And if they go into a care home, the level and quality of care that they can receive in that care home. So decisions like this, you can appoint someone in advance to make those decisions for you just in case you are mentally incapacitated and cannot make that decision. So if you have that concern that you would like somebody that you know and you trust to make that decision on your behalf, you can make a lasting power of attorney, limiting that person to only health and welfare matters and issues. Okay, so it can only be used when the donor is no longer able to decide for themselves mentally. Okay, now the third type of power of attorney that I want to discuss is the enduring power of attorney. Now, we abbreviate it as EPA, the enduring power of attorney. Now, this particular power of attorney is no longer in existence. In fact, it ceased to exist from 1st of October 2007. But why am I still talking about it? The reason I'm talking about it is because enduring powers of attorneys that were established or set up prior to 2007, 1st of October, are still enforced today. So if those enduring powers of attorneys have been established or set up prior to 1st of October 2007, they can still be recognized and they are still effective today. That's why I'm talking about it, and that's why I want you to have a knowledge of it, that it still exists, even though you can no longer set up new enduring powers of attorneys since after the 1st of October, since the 1st of October 2007. So what it means is that the existing enduring power of attorneys will continue to be registered at the Office of Public Guardian, right? So this enduring power of attorney, it needs to be registered for it to be effective. If it's not registered, it's not effective. Just like the ordinary power of attorney. So the setting up of this power of attorney stopped 30th of September 2007, but the existing ones still need to be registered with the Office of Public Guardian for it to continue to be effective. Now, EPA, the enduring power of attorney, can still be used just like the ordinary power of attorney while the donor still retains mental capacity. So we can use this enduring power of attorney just the same way you use the ordinary power of attorney while that donor still retains mental capacity. So what it means is that, this attorney can help the donor manage their financial and property affairs, just like they would do with the ordinary power of attorney. That's basically the difference here. The ordinary power of attorney is still there, but this one has stopped. You can no longer register a new enduring power of attorney from the 1st of October 2007, but you can still use it just the same way you use the ordinary power of attorney. So, but the difference between the EPA and the ordinary power of attorney lies in what happens when the donor loses mental capacity. That's where the difference is. So while the power of attorney ends, the ordinary power of attorney, we said it ends the moment the donor loses mental capacity. While that applies to ordinary power of attorney, for enduring powers of attorney, it carries on as long as it is registered with the Office of Public Guardian. Did you pick that difference? The ordinary power of attorney ceases to exist the moment the donor loses mental capacity. But if the attorney has enduring power of attorney, that responsibility can still carry on as long as it is registered with the Office of Public Guardian. That's the difference between the enduring power of attorney and the ordinary power of attorney. Both powers of attorney can still be used in the same way, but that's where the difference lies. So, but an unregistered EPA can be revoked. It may be revoked, but only after the Court of Protection have confirmed that the donor understands the full implication of revoking that enduring power of attorney. So even though you have any EPA that is not registered may be revoked, but the Court of Protection needs to confirm and verify from the donor that they understand the implication of revoking this enduring power of attorney. So whenever an application to register an enduring power of attorney is made with the OPG, that's the Office of Public Guardian, what they do is that they inform Edkin, welcome sir. What they do is that they inform the donor and at least 3 of the donor's relatives of that registration, saying, oh, an enduring power of attorney has been registered. And this means that this person is saying that they have the power and the authority and your permission to act on your behalf on affairs concerning your properties and your finances. We just wanted to let you know that this registration was made. So the donor will be notified, and 3 other relatives of the donor who are at least up to the age of 18, who are at least 18 years of age, and they must be mentally capable. Yeah, so they will be informed that this registration has been made. Okay, so those are the 3 kinds of powers of attorney that we want to talk about. But then how does this affect the borrowing, or how does this affect lending to attorneys, which is why we're talking about this in this mortgage education, because you might be wondering, is this a is this a legal class or a mortgage educational platform? So to link it now to borrowing, which includes mortgages, for attorneys with enduring power of attorney or lasting power of attorney, for them to be considered for borrowing, there are three things that lenders will have to confirm. First of all, the lender has to confirm that the person who has the enduring power of attorney or who has the lasting power of attorney, that those powers of attorneys are registered and they are still in force, that they have not been revoked. Right? So the lender will ask you to produce the documents, the enduring power of attorney, and then they will have to verify that and make sure that it has not been revoked by the court of protection or any other court of competent jurisdiction before they decide to lend against that property on behalf of the person who you are acting. Secondly, the lender will have to confirm that the person holding the enduring power of attorney or the lasting power of attorney has the authority to borrow. Very, very key. Remember, I mentioned that certain powers of attorney does not authorize you to borrow on behalf of the person or the donor who has issued you with that power of attorney. Okay? If that power of attorney does not authorize you to borrow, you have no right to initiate any borrowing or lending process on behalf of the donor, because that authority is not there, it's not covered. Some powers of attorney specifically excludes borrowing from the powers that are conferred on the attorney. The number three thing that the lender needs to be sure and confirm, which I have already mentioned, is that the purpose of borrowing is not excluded in the power of attorney. That power of attorney does not exclude the purpose of the borrowing. Now, the borrowing is different from the purpose of borrowing. Yeah, let me clarify that. When you want to borrow, if you are borrowing to take out extra capital from, maybe you are remortgaging a property to take out extra capital, and you are remortgaging that property to buy another investment property, and you are saying you are buying it on behalf of the donor or on behalf of the donor's dependents, the donor might want to specifically exclude that purpose from the borrowing powers that you have. They might want to say, you cannot borrow on my behalf to invest further in properties or any further investment. So they might just say that the only reason you can borrow on my behalf is for home improvements. Maybe to improve this property, to do the roof and do the decoration or extend it on home improvements. They might also say it might just be borrowing for holidays, right? Or they can say you can borrow on my behalf to buy a new property. So if the purpose of that borrowing is not excluded in that power of attorney, then yes, the borrowing can go ahead. So those are the three things that lenders will look at if you have existing power of attorney or enduring power of attorney or a lasting power of attorney. All right, so folks, this is where I'm going to round it up today for today's mortgage education session. I hope this has been useful to you. I hope you found it educating. I hope you found it informative enough. If you like what we're doing, just please leave us a feedback. Tell us what you feel like. Tell us, we're open to any kind of criticism as long as it's constructive. If there is anything you want us to do differently, please let us know. We are happy and open to those suggestions and what you think. But we really, really want to know what you think about what we're doing, because we don't just want to be doing things that are irrelevant. We want to know that they are relevant to you and that you appreciate them or that you find them useful. If not, please let us know and how we can make it better. So with powers of attorney, I hope you understand how important it is and why it is important in the lending circle of things. And if you feel there is need for you to look at powers of attorney, please have a look at it. If you have concerns about losing your mental capacity and who's going to making decisions when that happens to you, please speak to a solicitor or someone who deals with powers of attorney and get one for yourself, and mention and name someone who you know and trust who can make decisions on your behalf if you are not there. Or if you are living abroad and you have a property in the UK, or you have affairs in the UK, you want people to look after for you, make a power of attorney and authorize and empower them to make those decisions for you. It doesn't take any control away from you. It simply puts a process in place for you to make things easier for yourself. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for coming on board, and thank you for listening and for watching, and God bless you. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay happy. Bye now. See you later next week.